All right. Well, I think we will get started. Looks like we've got a good number of participants here, and I'm sure a few more will continue to join. But to kick it off, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody, depending on where you're located. Thank you for joining us today. And first of all, thank you to the LoRa Alliance for organizing this session and for bringing together such a strong group of network operators. My name is Jack Stewart. I'm a business development director with Tectelic based in Calgary in Canada. And in addition to that, I'm the chair of the Network Operator Forum within the LoRa Alliance. And a big part of my role, both at Tectelic and within the LoRa Alliance Network Operator Forum, is to work closely with LoRaWAN network operators, solution providers, and end customers to really understand what's actually happening in live deployments and where the market is moving. At Tectelic specifically, we focus on providing robust carrier-grade infrastructure to support the most reliable and widely deployed networks globally, such as the networks being discussed by these great operators here today. Today is really going to be about the operators, real networks, real deployments, real commercial outcomes. And as we head into Mobile World Congress next week, there's a lot of discussion around massive IoT. But what I'm most interested in learning more about today is to hear directly from the operators who are actually building these networks, running these networks at scale. So before I get to that, I'd like to invite all of our panelists to turn on their cameras, briefly introduce yourselves and your organization, just 30 seconds each, and then we'll dive into it. So let's start with Felix.
Yeah, I'm Felix. I'm within Swisscom in the B2B organization and responsible for the IoT business, but also responsible for the B2B mobile products, so all these tariffs and subscriptions. Swisscom is the incumbent telco in Switzerland and the largest ICT provider in Switzerland with the best cellular network. And already since 2016, so for 10 years, we have been running a nationwide LoRaWAN network in Switzerland. And we are one of the very first operators in the world who rolled out such a vast public network and one of the first LoRa Alliance members. Geographical focus, yes, mainly focused on Switzerland since the acquisition of Vodafone Italy, certainly also footprint in Italy. But also we are offering our LoRaWAN services out of Switzerland abroad with the backhauling of cellular networks as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Felix. Vadim?
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me all right and see me all right. I don't know, I can't see
Yeah,
myself.
all good. Yep.
Good. Yeah, so my name is Vadim Liu. I'm responsible for the UK and Irish operations of Netmore, and recently been appointed as a lead of our water vertical. So I'm helping out our other teams worldwide in the water sector. Netmore is I want to say the biggest LP1 operator in the world with recent acquisitions of Actility, Senet, Arson Metering probably is. And we provide carrier-grade LoRaWAN networks across the globe. So we operate in about 50 countries right now with about 18 countries or 19 countries where we can actually provide network as a service as well as a platform. That's the probably short introduction of Netmore, and I can talk about it a bit later if required. Thank you.
Thank you, Vadim. We'll move to Bahadir.
Again, hello everyone. I am Bahadır Alpçakır, working as Satellite IoT Product Manager at Planes. I'm responsible for end-to-end delivery of services and products for our satellite-based IoT network, which is called Connecta. Planes is a private new space initiative founded in 2021. Our headquarters is in Ankara, Turkey. We are specialized in satellite-based IoT services, mainly our services utilizes LoRaWAN connectivity, and also we are providing Earth observation services. We now operate a LoRaWAN-based satellite IoT network with 21 satellites in low Earth orbits and providing commercial IoT services across the globe. We are a vertically integrated company. We design, manufacture, and test our own satellite platforms, subsystems, and SCR solutions entirely in-house. This is at a glance for the Planes and me. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you, Baha. And then last but not least, we've got Boris.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Thank you for here. So welcome also from my side. My name is Boris Stöckerman. I'm the Director of Business Development, Strategy, Marketing, and E-commerce within the Zenner Worldwide Group. And I'm also a LoRaWAN ambassador with the LoRa Alliance, with leading smart city and smart building task force as a chair for the last 1.5 years here. And I'm very pleased to give a short introduction of Zenner. So Zenner, I think most people of you know Zenner or have come along with it. We're producing more than 100 years water meters of types of from very small to very big meters. But not only water meters, we also produce gas meters. Meanwhile, we are the second largest gas meter producers in the world. The last years, we had a transformation being ongoing in several business units. We'll come later to that. But we started as a main producer, but meanwhile, we transformed ourselves to a holistic IoT solution provider and actually running a very large LoRaWAN network in several countries. So we also provide infrastructure, gateways, network server to all different types of customer. And I'm really happy to share later on what we are doing. Thank you. Let's go to Jack back again.
All right. Thank you very much, everybody. And thank you, Boris. Thank you, everyone. Just a quick housekeeping note here. There is a Q&A tool which is open in the webinar platform right now. And there'll be about 10 minutes at the end of the webinar where we'll be answering questions live. So if you do have any questions, either now or as you're listening to the discussion over the next 30 minutes or so, please make sure to get those in. All right, so to set the stage here, Massive IoT is operating at real commercial scale on these guys' networks that we're going to be learning more about here in a minute. Broad adoption across critical infrastructure and various vertical markets is being seen globally, and we're going to learn more about it today. LoRaWAN and specifically LoRaWAN networks are no longer about experimentation or POCs. It's about scaling infrastructure that supports utilities, cities, buildings, agriculture, logistics, industry, lots of different vertical markets. And from an operator perspective, what's interesting is not just the growth, but how different network models are emerging. We see, territorial public networks that are being led by municipalities and cities. We see private territorial networks that are being deployed by utilities and enterprises. And we even see national telecom operator public networks that are providing large-scale commercial coverage. And the decision between these models is not just a technical one. It's about governance, it's about ownership, and it's about the long-term strategy. So with that context, I'm going to turn it over to the operators. We're here to listen to their stories and their successes, they're going to provide insights about how these networks are evolving in the broader landscape. So with that, Felix, Swisscom, let's start with you.
Sure, yeah. So I'm happy to give you some insight what our customers really appreciate most. So first of all, as I said, it's the nationwide coverage we have in Switzerland, but also our international coverage we have through roaming. Second part is plug and play gateways for coverage extension. So this is really zero touch, but also that we can seamlessly work worldwide with our great cellular roaming offering as a backhaul. Capability-wise, we are quite good in LoRaWAN relay, but also firmware over the air FuRta as newer functionalities we are supporting. And for FuRta, for example, we already managed larger rollouts with more than 20,000 devices at a time, for example. So this is something we are really good in, as well as very high customer proximity, meaning that we support our customers very extensively in getting their things up and running. Industry-wise, if we take that part, as you asked, Jack, we are very good in serving the utilities and building management. These are big growth drivers for us right now, but also in the futures. And as you mentioned, cities and municipalities, they shifted partially their focus from cellular electricity meters to LoRaWAN-based gas, heat, or water smart meters. And also agricultural sector or environmental monitoring is increasing as well. So this gives us a good tailwind with the CAGR, where we had in 24 more than 50% of CAGR, and last year it was 40%. So very nice uptakes we are seeing. This is how we are growing quite nicely in the market right now.
That's great. Thank you very much for those insights, Felix. Appreciate that. Netmore, Vadim, how about you? Maybe to kind of set the stage there, how has your LoRaWAN network footprint evolved, and what has sort of influenced those expansion decisions, say, over the last couple of years?
Right. So in terms of expanding our footprint, I must admit that we have expanded quite dramatically. I've been in business for over 5 years, and if I'm honest, every year is a different company. Especially for the last 2 years, with acquisition of Actility, we have become completely different company. It's even difficult to call it acquisition because we've been like almost the same size companies in terms of people. So we're really truly global. We have presence in about 50 countries in the world. The reason, if you ask about the reason why we've done it, and it's a strategic choice, obviously, to do that. Basically, I'm going to state the obvious. In our business, volumes is the key. We have to drive the volumes. Otherwise, you just can't be profitable in this business, right? And if you want to drive the volumes, you have to be global. But there are 3 things that I can identify that drive these decisions, basically. The first one is customer fragmentation. As a matter of fact, ending of customer fragmentation. There is high demand in IoT, but there are a lot of different players in the ecosystem trying different networks, trying different devices. And there is not always interoperability. So we aim to create eventually a one ecosystem interoperable platform where every player of the ecosystem can sort of dock in and use our network. As a matter of fact, for example, we work with Swisscom just here in the webinar. We work with Swisscom, we work with Zenner. We don't work with Bahadur yet, but I'm sure we can find ways of working together. So that's one. The second is also to do with customers. We could hear from the market that customers like water utilities or enterprise IoT players, they all want global coverage, for example. They all want different features like DLMS or water or geolocation, for example, and not everybody can give it. So our aim is to respond to this demand. Basically, we want to create something that gives everything. And the last but not least, of course, is economies of scale. You can imagine if we can operate that many devices as one company instead of 5 companies, we can definitely save cost per device per year. So economies of scale definitely is going to work. I hope that answered the question, Jack.
Absolutely. That's great. I appreciate that very much, Vadim. Baha, very similar question for you, and you have kind of a different and unique perspective on this, but your model brings satellite into the equation. How has your LoRaWAN-based satellite network, I'll say, evolved over the last couple of years? I think there's probably been a lot of evolution as satellites really kind of taken off and become more available. So could you give us your insights?
Yeah, actually, we are a fairly new operator. We are founded in 2021, Until that time, we are building our own satellites, equipments, and subsystems. We have launched our first satellites in 2022, actually 8 months after our foundation. This satellite was the first satellite we tested LoRaWAN connectivity to space and tested different technologies also. We have launched 4 more test satellites actually in 3 different missions with SpaceX. Our main goal was initially was to test different waveforms and gain flight heritage to our own equipments and the STEP platforms. We have tested the LoRa and LRFHSS technology and see that it suits low data rates and massive scale IoT applications very well. So we have launched our first 4 commercial satellites in 2024, and they are now operational, providing services. Now, with 16 satellites, we have launched 12 more satellites until then. We are operating 16 total commercial satellites and providing services here in Turkey. Actually, what we are doing is we are actually, as you said, satellite IoT is a new technology. Nobody awares of it. So we are explaining the technology, how satellite IoT can contribute to the applications and the use cases of the commercial companies, enterprises, municipalities. We are taking demos and pilots. We were actually, and here in Turkey, we are providing commercial services. This is a good achievement for us and for the LoRa Alliance as well. We are actually introducing LoRaWAN to everyone here in Turkey, and it's well adopted. And also, we are getting licenses to provide global services. We have licenses in Denmark, Australia, and Sweden. And each and every day, we are working to expand our services globally. We have very talented teams, and with the help of LoRa Alliance and also with the LoRaWAN Satellite Task Force, we are going to the markets where we can't reach and explain our motivation and goals and the technology. So with each year, we are going to expand our constellation. Our goal is to reach much more satellites and provide near real-time services to our customers.
Excellent. Very good, Baha. Appreciate those insights for sure. Boris, Zenner, I understand, Zenner has had strong deployments, having, worked with Zenner over the years in utilities and smart buildings. But over the last couple of years, how has your network footprint evolved? And, maybe what sort of influenced those decisions? And have you seen any changes in, customer buying behavior or customer demand when it comes to your network?
Yeah, thank you, Jack. So, okay, so the first part of the question you ask, okay, how is it developed over the last time? So we started with Zenner with LoRaWAN 10 years ago. So 2016 was the starting point. We stepped into it and we compared those days as one of the earliest members of the alliance, which would be a feasible technology for remote readout. So this was the starting point when Zenner went onto the track for LoRaWAN. And this was primarily done for the smart home industry. So how do we offer sub-metering data already in awareness that the European Energy Efficiency Directive will come into place, which requires homeowners to provide the consumption readouts to tenants, not only once a year, but ongoing or more or less several times in a year, so that the tenants are able to adopt their consumption. And without meter readings, they are not able to. And if you give them the data only once a year with some invoices, then it's from a political perspective not enough. And it's not only providing them the consumption data, but also provide the tenants comparison to what is an average consumption of a four-person household, for example. So this was the starting point. So as I mentioned, so we started with metering, and then we went into LoRaWAN technology. We also defined those days to run, and finally went into the own development of gateways and network servers. And this was primarily starting in Germany. So it started slowly, and we primarily operating our network with indoor gateways. And we suddenly expanded this 6 years ago very strongly. Then started with the European-wide rollout after we acquired Brunata, which was still the same technology in the housing industry doing sub-metering. And we grew year over year, 500,000, 1 million devices, and keep going with that. And finally, we were also identified as a key player from the smart city environment because they recognized we had been one of the first developers in the market having LoRaWAN water meters. And most of the cities were in touch with us in Germany anyhow. And so we started developing customers, big cities, utilities, first days into developing them and providing them infrastructure and technologies to run their own LoRaWAN networks by using our technologies. And so after a while, so 2024, 2 years, 1.5 years ago, we had to celebrate, and we're happy to celebrate the first 7.5 million end devices LoRaWAN in our network, which those days was about 12, 13 countries, primarily Europe, but also in Middle East and in the US. So the last 1.5 years was strictly a strong growth, especially in the housing industry. So we added another 3.5 million devices to our common network, which is primarily in the housing industry, but also in smart cities and smart utilities. So customer changing behavior, what was the main difference to the past? A massive change happened because in the beginning, when we introduced LoRaWAN, it was a very strong technology discussions in convincing cities and homeowners to use the technology. Why is it so great? Why is this a great technology with all the technical advantages? But over the last time, this changed because the people, at least this is our impression, the people already know LoRaWAN, the cities, they know LoRaWAN, they know the advantages. And now it comes more and more into discussion and, okay, how do we can integrate LoRaWAN with other existing infrastructure technologies like BACnet or wireless MBUS and MBUS? And so this is a trend we also see and reflect in our product development. So there is a more, especially in Europe. So in some other regions in the world, LoRaWAN is still not really well known, but we, together with all the members here from the Alliance, driving this heavily.
That's great, Boris. You kind of touched on it about the different verticals that you've been focusing on, from utilities to smart buildings, even smart homes, it sounds like in some cases, and building management. Would you say that the facility side, the homes, the buildings, is the fastest growing vertical for Zenner, or
Yeah.
is
I
that what you'd
think
say? Yeah.
this is the fastest growing because most of our implementations, what we're running here was Minol in Germany, and we're doing with Brunata in all over Europe on the US market. That's why we have all these high numbers of gateways, which is 158,000 gateways meanwhile. So these are all indoor gateways. And the need for that is quite simple because the people start thinking about their own consumption, especially over the last 2 years. There was a massive drive there when the energy costs went up, the gas, the oil, all the energy crisis and all over Europe, maybe also worldwide. So this was a massive driver that people recognized. How could I save energies? And for that, before starting, you of course need to know what the consumption is. And of course, the European Energy Efficiency Directive is driving this strongly. So it's not only the building owners pushing that, but also it's many tenants now reaching out to their customers. So that's so it's metering, which is heavily driving because now water consumption drives in, and I know that Vadim will deep dive a little bit more into that. So it's a utility, especially in the water, which is massively growing, and the smart home industry or the sub-metering of apartment buildings, heat cost, water cost, and also what we offer, smoke detector service. This is what drives the big numbers. I think it's the core thing here.
Yeah, that's great, Boris. Appreciate that. And I appreciate you touching on some of these kind of real examples, because that's a good transition here into sort of our next section. Each of the operators that are here today have brought with them a real use case that they're supporting today with their networks, and they're going to talk a little bit about the value that their customers are using by utilizing these networks. So Felix, we'll start with you at Swisscom, and I'll just share the screen here. There you go. Go ahead.
Just let me remind all the participants, please use your Q&A section on the below button, because I just saw there is one coming in so far. Please take up your notes and questions if you have some to share with us.
Thank you, Jack. Yeah, here you see already the use case I brought, which is PibblyBike. So this is a very recent customer success story we have. PibblyBike is the biggest bike sharing provider in Switzerland, with some 10,000 of bikes around, with 1,000 of bike rental stations across Switzerland all over. And the story is that in the past, PibblyBike operated their own LoRaWAN networks on their own across Switzerland in order to unlock and lock and locate the bikes themselves. This meant for them high effort in building the networks, but also maintaining them. And in the end, it was really too complex and too costly as well for them. So they decided to switch from their local deployments, and you are now using Swisscom's nationwide LoRaWAN network in Switzerland. And this is a good example where it becomes obvious that operating such a network is not just about plugging in a gateway, but it's a lot more behind it and needs a lot of experience as well. And another nice thing about using our network is that, for example, now they can at least find all their bikes, because before, if somebody locates a bike out of their regional local networks, it was hard to find the bike later on. So with a nationwide outdoor network, this is a lot easier. So this is a very nice example where we say, hey, dear customer, focus on your core business and don't tempt to build up your own network and operate it. It's just not worth it, as there are operators who have a lot of experience with that. And also if it comes to security, for example, there are challenges which needs to be well managed, and the providers like we are here in the call are well suited for that. So this is our customer success story we recently realized.
That's great. That's a great one, and I'm sure anybody who's around Switzerland is using these bikes and understanding the value of the network just by using it. So that's excellent. Appreciate those insights, Felix.
Sure.
Vadim, let's go to you with Netmore.
Hello. Yes. 2 minutes. I did rehearsal, Jack. I did try to fill it in 2 minutes. So let's test it. We're talking about water. We're going to talk about water. And as Boris mentioned before, water is huge and is becoming bigger and bigger. And we see it obviously in our portfolio. Just to give you a brief number, I think the last number is around 70 or 65% of our business is in water. Hence, we decided that we'll probably talk about water use case. This is something wrong. Not 17 million, 1.7 million. So Yorkshire Water is the client I wanted to talk about, and I can talk about it for ages, if I'm honest, because this is my team's baby. Basically, in 2021, we started working with Yorkshire Water when they've asked us to do a trial. I say trial, it's quite a large trial. It turned out to be 150,000 meters trial. but initially it was a trial, right? So we deployed a LoRaWAN network for them for new developments and domestic opt-ins. And after that, in 1.5 years, they decided to go for tender with their large exchange program for 1.4 million meters. And following the success of the trial, they decided to give it to us, basically. So right now we're deploying around 1.7 million, as I said, meters by 2030, with about 240,000 already supplied and installed, from which around 97% are transmitting the data at least once a month for billing purposes. Obviously, for other use cases, it's a little bit less. But in terms of benefits that Yorkshire Water had achieved so far, since 2023, for example, is we have managed to save more than 7 megaliters of water. And in terms of leak detection, the end customers of Yorkshire Water had managed to repair more than 6,000 leaks. Again, this is not the full scope only starting from 2023, but you can imagine how quickly it will be expanded once we have more and more meters in the ground and connected. I think I should be all right for 2 minutes.
That's great. Appreciate that, Vadim. Thank you very much. Baha, how about you?
I'm good.
Yeah, so you brought a electricity metering use case here today, so
Yes.
give you some time to talk about that.
Yeah, it is actually one of our main use cases commercialized right now. What we are doing is actually monitoring the electricity meters of the distribution companies in hard-to-reach areas. The scattered natures of this settlements in rural and mountainous regions can make site visits nearly impossible, especially in the harsh winter conditions. As a result, actually, the distribution companies faces revenue loss because they are not constantly billing this in the consumers, and actually they are threatened by the labor losses and the risk during the field operation every day and every year, actually. So with this solution, we enable distribution companies to cut their costs, operational costs mainly, and ensure consistent billing cycles even in rural areas, and enhance their personal safety. For this solution, actually, we designed a satellite modem that supports standard serial interface to connect the metering device and reads its valuable data. The device is actually periodically reads the data and send it to the internet or private data center of distribution company through our Connect IoT network. The device directly communicates with our satellite network. Actually, right now we are providing services more than 10 distribution companies, and we make some big pilots with them, and we see that we are cutting the operational cost up to 21%, 25%. So the main advantage of this system actually the LoRaWAN advantages. We can provide seamless global coverage anywhere on the planet. The satellites flying over you, and you can connect anywhere on the planet, and you can access your sensor or device anytime. So it makes actually companies to enrich their markets and unlock new revenue streams without any terrestrial infrastructure installation. So that makes companies and the solution providers to get into the market easily. So we are operating in LoRaWAN bands, terrestrial LoRaWAN bands, and we have tested and reported that we are not harmful to existing terrestrial networks. We can coexist with the terrestrial ones, and we are also not disrupted by the terrestrial network services. And we are using standard LoRaWAN chipsets to connect to our satellites. The satellites is about around 500 kilometers. So this actually enables us to design battery-powered satellite modems, which is affordable and last for years. So these are the main advantages of this satellite-based IoT network and the application for the electricity metering monitoring.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you very much for that, Baha. Boris, I'll send it over to you back at Zenner. You brought a use case as well around sub-metering and smoke detectors and lots of different things as we talked about in the facility management space.
Yeah, thank you, Jack. So what I want to introduce sort of very high levels, as I mentioned, we're actually running the largest network with the live devices, which is 10.4 million LoRaWAN sensors here in more than 15 countries, 158,000 gateways. So as I mentioned before, so we started coming from the smart sub-metering business in the housing industry. But suddenly then, of course, we went into smart city stuff because many people recognize Zenner as a partner for that. And so for the smart city, what we did there, pipe monitoring, parking, starting with street lighting. But now the last times we did a lot with flood monitoring, flooding of cities. You all aware of this critical crisis in all the big cities where we had dramatic losses of people last year before in the area of Barcelona around. So many things went coming from the smart city stuff. And then we also went into industries. So we are strong in the automotive sector, also doing track and trace of material tracking, intralogistics, which is nice to do, but it's all smaller things. So the biggest portion, what I want to dig a little bit more into, is the sub-metering. So this is the main driver from us, reporting consumption of water and heating for the housing industry to each single tenant. So what we do there, we build in our indoor gateways to receive a whole building. We also use outdoor gateways to receive the data from several buildings up to a whole district from cities. And there's a strong interlock here between not only providing data, but even getting more data also to each single tenant. So we're starting from the sensor technology on LoRaWAN, providing the network with our LoRaWAN network, and then finally also providing an overview to all the tenants so that every single tenant has a direct access to their own consumption and see what's happening. So we are monitoring that with a network operator hub here in the Zenner group. This is what we're primarily doing. A nice add-on here, what is more or less in many countries in Europe as a key requirement, is the legal given that you have to install smoke detectors, smoke alarms, in special in buildings you rent apartments or you lend apartments. So every apartment owner is in the legal position you have to provide smoke detectors. So this, all of it, the big value add here was in the past, the readout of devices and the test of these smoke detectors. Once a year, somebody had to enter every single apartment. So making an appointment with the tenant of an apartment building and go into the apartment and do manually read out the water consumption, the heating consumptions, or pushes some buttons to test if the smoke detector is properly working. So this now it's gone away. So this is completely automated now because we're doing this remotely via LoRaWAN network. So we receive ongoing the data. We can provide this information to the tenants. And finally, what we give us on top of these applications, of course, we're doing our core business here, providing the consumption billing to all the house building owners and breaking it down as a service to all the tenants. So imagine you have an apartment building with 10 apartments. They have the overall heating cost and water consumption, and our service brings this down based on LoRaWAN to every single tenant once a year. But the main difference is to the former or the past radio technology we were using. Now we have this more or less ongoing. We don't need to enter an apartment any longer. We even don't need to drive by or drive to the building. So we're saving a lot of service time. And of course, we're saving a lot of CO2 because we don't need to send people to all these buildings. The main contracts, what we're providing here in Germany, it's about 10 years for a building. So we go in, mounting all the technology in, and then we don't need to visit the apartment building over the next 10 years.
That's great. Excellent. Thank you very much, Boris. Appreciate that.
Welcome.
just quickly, I want to make sure that we have a few minutes here for Q&A. We've had some good questions come in. I want to make sure that we can get to those. Maybe we'll just go around the table one final time, just 20, 30 seconds if you have any final thoughts to share. And then I want to also just quickly introduce our MWC reception that we're having, and then we'll jump into the Q&A. So Felix, we'll start with you, just if you have any final thoughts.
Sure. My 5 cents are LoRaWAN is a proven and mature technology. We have heard that several times. Even though we are still evolving the standard and introduce new appropriate features, so it's not the end of the development. And LoRaWAN is suited for indoor and outdoor use cases, as we heard. And Boris mentioned in the beginning that POCs are not necessary to prove the technology once more, but it's really about proving the specific use case and business case of an individual customer. This is always good, and we are here to do that. And please, as a potential customers, make your decision about make or buy very carefully. Don't underestimate the subsequent costs and complexity if you want to build up your own network. We have done that for more than 10 years in LoRaWAN, and happy to support. That's my 5 cents. Thanks a lot.
Excellent. Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Felix. How about you, Vadim? Any closing thoughts before we jump into the Q&A here?
Yeah, I'll try to be fast. I think if you asked me this question like 10 years ago, I would say I don't believe that all the estimations that were made 20 years ago are going to happen, because 20 years ago everybody was saying IoT is the next big huge thing, but nothing happened in 10 years. But now I truly feel that we are at the age where the curve will go really up, meaning that IoT is really becoming a commodity, required commodity, rather than a playground, so to say. And we at Netmore obviously want to be in the center of ecosystem. We want to provide the services on-prem, public network. We want everybody to be able to use the network without the need to build like 2-3 networks in the same place. At least that's our strategy.
That's great. Thank you, Vadim. Baha, satellite. Any final thoughts from you?
Yeah, actually, we were discussing private and public networks last 5 years maybe, but right now we are talking about also satellite networks, and these networks are evolving very fast, and they are merging with the terrestrial networks. We can provide services with through terrestrial networks and satellite networks, and this adds value to the customer services, we believe, because the terrestrial networks and satellite networks are separated to each other, and with the latest development through the LoRa Alliance, we are actually developing a standard that can support both networks so that you can connect anywhere on the planet anytime. So this is the most valuable thing, maybe the coming years. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Baha. And last but not least, Boris, any final thoughts before we jump into the questions?
Just take the point from here and expand this a little bit more, because and also what Vadim mentioned. So the core decision why you should go for a LoRaWAN or NB-IoT or wireless MBUS or all the other different technologies in the market is the core question. It always comes from, okay, what is your core use case? What you're trying to achieve? Take my example. You have an apartment building with 800 end devices in it. The most efficient way today is having a LoRaWAN network with an indoor gateway. But think about, you have a very remote and area, like we have several occasions in the world, like animal tracking, desert zone, mountain monitorings, natural changes. So satellite, I guess, will be a massive advantage for that, for very rural areas to monitor, where you may, in some region today, you even don't have a smartphone connection, right? So you have a direct connection that we will see approaching in the near future, coming from sensors directly to the satellite. And as Vadim also mentioned, is a network technology finally why we recognize the strong growth in all the industries for IoT, because many industries, they use already LoRaWAN, but they don't tell you because it's their competitive advantage. They're not telling about which tracking system, which technology they use, because this is their asset, right? But it's meanwhile, it's all over the world, it's going stronger. And what we see, as I mentioned, is there will be a very strong integration with different technologies, but finally, the use case itself will define the best suitable technology for it.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Boris, and thank you, everybody. Thank you to all of our panelists today. We'll all stick around for the Q&A portion of the webinar here. So thank you to those of you who have submitted your questions. But just quickly, before we wrap up, if you're watching this panel and if you're attending Mobile World Congress in Barcelona next week, make sure that you attend the LoRa Alliance reception. You can meet with representatives from all of the companies who have presented here today. You can talk to the leading LoRaWAN network operators and users, and you can hear for yourself how LoRaWAN is helping businesses to scale. So the information is on the screen here. The event is being held at the Netherlands Pavilion, which is booth CS54, which is actually just right in between hall 4 and 5. And it's on Tuesday evening. So Tuesday, March 3rd from 5 to 7 p.m. Again, at the Netherlands Pavilion, right between halls 4 and 5. So make sure you're there. Again, these conversations that we're having here, a lot of them started like decisions about, deploying networks and solving problems and addressing different use cases. A lot of these conversations started at events just like this. So make sure you're there, and we can connect and discuss further. All right. So again, thank you to all of our panelists. If all of you want to maybe just jump on camera now, we do have a few questions that have come through. Vadim, why don't we start with you? There was a question that was submitted that's asking, what is the key value proposition offered from a private network compared to one of the community-sourced networks? Do you have some thoughts on that, Vadim?
Yeah, was it around communities or yes, community source network? So, yeah, I guess if you call the private network what we do, well, it's kind of private but public, meaning that we build carrier grade networks on demand, but also available for public. So basically, it's not community built; it's a carrier grade, but it is available for public. So, for example, in the UK, we cover around 70% of population. So chances are that if you are a nationwide service provider and you want to use our network, you can use 70% of publics already. And it's SLA based. Basically, if something goes down, we have this contractual obligation to make sure that it's working. Whereas with community-led networks, it's a great idea, but at the same time, you can't expect the SLA from that networks. Also, maybe to add to that, what we're doing as Netmore, again, coming back to this idea of like open ecosystem that we're trying to build, we are talking to different networks as well. We are roaming on different networks because we really truly believe that there is no point to build two networks in the same sort of area. So we would rather roam on different networks. So, worldwide, we have different networks, which I can't really name due to the DNA and NDAs, but you can imagine the coverage expands quite rapidly. I don't know if I answered that question.
Yeah, that's great.
May I add something to that?
Of course.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So maybe because the question for the private, what is then the advantage of a pure private network? As I mentioned, there's many industry customers or small, medium business customers. It all comes from the use case. If you think about a city, you need to think, are you able to maintain a LoRaWAN network? It's feasible, yeah, you can. But I think also Felix mentioned this, you need to be aware of that you also need then, it's not just rolling out something. You need to have a proper maintenance project behind that, how you take care, how you maintain the devices, how you maintain the gateway infrastructure, how you monitor and run your network. This you have to do with a private, with a carrier operator. They support you with all the systems, so they just provide you the infrastructure. You can just use it. Also, it's public, yeah. But on the private one, I think if you have a small company and you have like a craftsman shop and you have maybe 30 devices in an own fabrication, it's one gateway normally. You can run this because you also, your IT department normally runs also your Wi-Fi network, but we were talking about much, much more devices like what Vadim's do with Netmore with huge numbers of water meter rollouts. It's always a question, are you capable to run this on your own, yes or no? Because normally you're not keen to run a network, but why are you doing IoT? You just want to have the data. And normally you also won't get every single time a message from a device, but you want only, normally you want to get some meters reading, or you want to get an alarm when something is no longer as it should be. And for just to having this, as I mentioned, depending on the use case, you don't want to monitor and transform your core business into now I need to get a network operator on my own to run this. So I think this is one of the biggest advantages of a private public run network by a network operator.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
I was gonna thanks Boris. I was gonna talk about that as well, but then I've realized that the question was about community sourced networks, which I think adds up to the answer. But yeah, community sourced is a different beast, which you have to be careful about.
Yes, thank you.
Sure. Baha, there's a question that has come through about satellite. So it's basically just asking about the LoRaWAN-based satellite networks deployment in the USA, if there have been any deployments or how many deployments in the USA, and if it's associated all with Starlink network. So maybe you can touch on that.
Yeah. Actually, we are on a different network from the Starlink. It is not associated with it. It is a LoRaWAN-based satellite network. You can think of like a private network, private satellite network right now. For the US, actually, we are ready to provide services in US, but we are negotiating with the FCC for the approvals. For the satellites, you need to access the spectrum and to get the necessary approvals from the authorities. And we are negotiating with the FCC about this issue. We are, as we did in the Europe and the Middle East, we are doing the same procedures to gain access to the US market. But we are ready for testing. We are ready for the demos and the pilots. So if we can, you can reach out if you want to try this satellite network.
Very good. Thank you for that, Baha. I got another question here, and Felix, maybe I'll send this one over to you. It talks about remote network management. So, how important is remote management and automation tools when it comes to LoRaWAN networks in terms of network reliability? Can you touch on that?
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's a good question. Look at the topology we have in Switzerland with all the mountains. Some areas are really difficult to reach, some even only by helicopter. And therefore, remote management capability is extremely important. And this includes also automized monitoring so that we have a manageability which is affordable also for the whole network. And also, we use our existing network operation center to fulfill all these tasks. So there you have 24/7 constant professional monitoring of the whole network. Yes, but coming back to the main question, it's extremely important, the remote management capability.
That's great. Thank you very much. All right. Well, maybe one more.
and then we'll wrap things up. We just have a few minutes left. Let me see here. I'll just look at the questions. Boris, for Zenner, we had talked about it a little bit already, but over the next few years, which vertical markets do you expect to see the most significant growth, or where do you see, innovation going in the LoRaWAN network space over the next few years?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I think so for sure. As I mentioned already, so the building industries, not only apartment building but also public buildings, this will dramatically increase. But also what we see, so after the first hype of cities going into that, smart water industry, for me, it will be the smart water rollout. It's not only about, okay, let's roll out water meters, but it's also for measuring consumption in city-wide networks, but it also will come to the whole water network, like pipeline monitoring, leakage detection. Vadim also mentioned that this will everything what has to do with water, fresh water supply. We face already worldwide massive decrease of water, drink water availability. So consumption monitoring, we see it in many countries that is getting real vital. So I know Switzerland and Austria and even Germany, we don't have really this problem due to our geo position, but there are many big cities, and due to the trend from people moving to big cities, we have all these multi-million cities on the world, which they really have big issues for drinking water supply. So this will be a massive driver. Energy monitoring, because we didn't talk too much about it. So this will be the same, monitoring your consumption with all the electronic vehicles, monitoring consumption, ad hoc providing how you switch on, switch off to make the electronic network stability, the power networks. Though even there we will see a lot of LoRaWAN entering. In Germany, we have a quite special situation, but from a worldwide perspective, we also expect everything what helps you to monitor energy resources, power, water, heating. This will be dramatically increased from a worldwide perspective. And let me sum that up, but also we will see, because this is, as I mentioned, is a little bit hidden, what the production companies will come in, they're also doing. But as I mentioned, what we also will all recognize is there will be a massive merger in the technologies based on the use cases. So I think the real massive, and we see it today, what are the biggest rollouts are actually in the metering industry, sub-metering, but also incidences like we had with the floodings worldwide, alarms when earthquakes came up, or catastrophe monitoring. This will come more and more on a worldwide perspective, what we expect here. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you for that, Boris. Yeah, thank you, everybody. So Felix, Vadim, Baha, Boris, thank you very much for your insights. I think this was a great discussion, a lot of good points. Just a reminder for everybody, LoRa Alliance reception next week, MWC Tuesday from 5 to 7 in the Netherlands Pavilion, right between Hall 4 and 5, booth CS54. Make sure you're there. You can talk to all of the operators here, but the entire LoRaWAN ecosystem, so it'll be a great place to connect and learn more. So thank you, everybody, for your time. This webinar, the recording for this webinar will be available on the LoRa Alliance website soon, so please keep an eye out for that. We appreciate everybody's time, and for some of you, we'll see you next week. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye then. Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye,
See
everybody.
you.
See you again. Thank you.